Hey guys, I know it's been a while. I know this video might be a bit different from my usual videos, but if you guys like this, I might keep doing this. And with this video, I hope I can encourage some of you to pick one of these up in the future. So, enough of this intro, let's get into it. VR. To some, it's pushed to the side and never really addressed properly. From its beginnings, it was a large, hefty project, often costing 4 holes in your room, a good amount of space, which isn't too prevalent in the average English household, and a PC able to handle the Matrix. But since then, it has evolved, with, in my opinion, the one VR headset to change it all. Before we get into it, let's go back to 1987. Back then, times were simple. The sequels to The Legend of Zelda, Street Fighter, and Metal Gear just dropped, and a fairly plump man living in New York was attempting to revive the artificial reality business. Jaron Lanier had been working for Atari up until 1985, which was the first year he left to pursue a recently discovered passion of his. Now, artificial reality had been used by wealthy scientists and the military years before Jaron Lanier. Even as early as 1929, Edward linked the public with a new reality. They were essentially a bootleg version of the Google Cardboard, and had, quote, motors that linked the rudder and steering column to modify the pitch and roll, end quote. This was essentially the birth of 3 Degrees of Freedom, which has been used in the Wii, Nintendo Switch, and Oculus Go. 3 Degrees of Freedom essentially means your pitch and roll, but artificial reality was almost left alone aside from this short-term use of it in the military, until Jaron Lanier picked it up again. He was the first to get artificial reality, now renamed virtual reality, into the mainstream, from companies such as Nintendo and Sega. Sega was the first to the VR market in 1995 when they released the Sega VR headset for the Sega Genesis. The product was priced at $200 or $320 in today's money. The product was a huge flop, and it only ever had 4 games to play. The headset was eventually discontinued in 1994. But a year later, Nintendo took the baton of VR from Sega and created the Virtual Boy. The product was hyped for being the first 3D rendered gaming console. Unfortunately, the marketing was lacking and almost no one bought the Virtual Boy. Even after multiple price drops, it was discontinued. It isn't looking too good for virtual reality at the moment, but that's all about to change. Oh, Jesus. Oh my god. It's July 2012, and the London Olympics is beginning. The same with a small company with a big future. Oculus was founded by 2 men in Irvine, California, called Palmer Luckey and Brendan Eyeburn. I don't know if I said that right. They created the first ever 6 Degrees of Freedom VR headset. This was the Oculus Rift DK1. This was the case for almost any VR headset to come, with the beta version of the Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, and the PSVR. Well, sort of. This headset is a prime example of VR going mainstream, then getting a bad rep. The controllers had lights on the top of them, and a single camera on top of the TV. This wasn't the best way to do this, and every time a person turned around and had the controller's lights hidden, the hands would lose tracking. So players were almost restricted to 180 degrees of play. Many people bought this and were disappointed and assumed this is all VR had to offer. But this one release from Oculus changed the game forever. The Oculus Quest, in my opinion, is the one to change it all. The Oculus Quest is the first ever completely untethered 6 Degrees of Freedom VR headset, with cameras built into the front of the headset, so no setting up cameras and no holes. An all-in-one headset. No, experience. I bought the Oculus Quest after playing Beat Saber in VR Arcade, and I loved every second of it. The way the controllers vibrated when hitting the blocks and overlapping each other. I was fully immersed, and before I knew it, my 10 minutes were up. They gave me a complimentary go on the plank, and I was terrified. I don't fear heights, but I was lost in a new world over an open city, with virtual wind blowing in my face. But the thing was that I felt the wind blow my hair around and tickle my ankles. I eventually mustered up the courage and jumped. The instructor removed the headset, and I asked him, "Did you have a fan?" He replied with a confused face and said, "No." I walked off and saw the world in a new way, the way the sun drifted through the leaves and dazed my eyes. I knew I needed my own. 6 months later, the Quest was in my home, often on my head. But my dad wasn't too sure about this. He thought I would never get out of it, but he was curious. So I booted up Apollo 11 VR, and about the same time, it was the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. So I thought this would be a good one for him. He did the whole thing with an open jaw, and the occasional, "whoa." The rest was silent, just the solar winds and the radio chatter coming from the headset. He finished it and looked around and said, "That was amazing." I think VR is more than a great piece of tech. It's a way to escape, to lose yourself, and as you wield a sword and shield, bend time and become more powerful than anyone before, to become the greatest boxer ever to live, slash straight through hundreds of objects a minute to a funky beat, to climb the highest mountains and explore the deepest depths of the ocean, to connect with people you haven't seen in years. This is more than VR. This is a way to leave a dull reality behind and jump into a new realm of possibilities. VR is already used in multiple practices. It has started to be used in surgery practice. A study was done where 2 groups of surgeons trained on VR and training with the traditional method, which is an observation of a higher class surgeon. The trainees who used VR had a success rate after a week of 83%, and the same with the traditional method group. The percent was 0. Some elderly homes have VR headsets to get them active and entertain them, schools and more. If you're thinking about buying a VR headset and have the money, I would fully recommend the Oculus Quest for its wireless gameplay and portability and easy setup. And don't let the price faze you. I fully believe every penny I put into it was worth it. The games are high quality, and if you have a PC, the Oculus Link is out, which turns your Oculus Quest into a PC VR. Optical hand tracking, soon to be added to games where developers believe it would work well with gameplay, and the hand tracking at the moment works fantastically, and it's still in beta. The Quest library is vast and games are frequently added, from fearful horror to relaxing sitting on a desert island with water trickling down a rocky edge. To end this video, I personally believe VR is the future. And that's not to say that flat screen gaming won't be a thing. Of course it will. Some games just work better on a flat screen. But I do believe that VR is the next step in gaming. Some games do work hundreds of times better on a VR platform. Superhot is a great example. Now, Superhot works well on a flat screen, but after playing it on VR, its flat screen counterpart is completely overshadowed, and I am still baffled on how it wasn't originally a VR game. Anyway, I hope you didn't mind this wasn't a regular video, but I really enjoyed making this, so I might make more depending on your reaction. Anyway, goodbye. I'll see you in the future.